We are now going to review the steps to installing the drinking water faucet. A minimum 1/2 inch to 1.25 inch diameter hole is required. If your sink has a spare pre-drilled hole for a soap dispenser or spray hose, you can mount the faucet there. When drilling a hole for the RO faucet, choose a location that is most convenient for dispensing the pure water. A flat area is required for faucet location so that the faucet base can be secured sufficiently. Please wear protective eyewear while performing any type of drilling. Make sure the faucet stem will be accessible from below when the hole is drilled. If space is not available on the upper sink area, the faucet can be located on the countertop by the edge of the sink. If the countertop is ceramic tile, the method for drilling the hole will be the same as for porcelain sinks. Once the hole has been drilled, the faucet can now be mounted. Before sliding the faucet stem through the hole, slide the faucet disc and black rubber washer up to the faucet base first. The spout can rotate 360 degrees, allowing the base to be mounted with the black handle facing the sink or away. Now, slide the faucet stem through the countertop hole. Under the countertop, slide the small washer up the stem, followed by the black locating washer. Next, slide up the lock washer. Secure the faucet by tightening the lock nut by hand. Then, secure with an adjustable wrench. Once the faucet is secured, attach the faucet adapter to the stem. Simply screw the threaded end to the stem as no Teflon tape is needed. There are 2 ways to dispense water. Press down on the faucet handle or lift up on the handle to lock the automatically dispensed water. The faucet is now completely assembled. The RO unit is most commonly installed under the sink, but can be installed anywhere feed water is available. You can install the unit in the basement, crawl space, and even the garage. The frame of the unit comes with 2 pre-drilled holes. This will allow you to easily mount the unit to a wall or fixture. However, the system can stand on its own and does not have to be mounted. The storage tank is pressurized so it can be installed upright or laid on its side to save space. If the tank cannot fit under the kitchen sink, it can be placed elsewhere up to 20 feet away from the RO system without much pressure loss. Now that you have installed the drinking water faucet and positioned the system, please check out our next video on completing the tubing connections.
Congratulations on the purchase of your new iSpring reverse osmosis filtration system. In this video, we will show you step by step how to install your new system. Initial steps. Carefully read through your user's manual provided with your system. Lay out all the components and make sure to check off each item. You will also need some household tools in order to complete this installation. Installing pre-filters. Remove the protective wrap from each filter before installing. Make sure the O-ring is seated in the top of the housing. Install the filter in the housing and then carefully screw the housing onto the filtration system. Installing filter elements vertically will help keep them aligned correctly in the filter housing. Repeat the process for the 2 remaining filter elements, making sure to match them to the correct location. Tighten each filter housing using the supplied wrench. Installing membrane. Remove the membrane from the protective wrap. Remove the black caps from both ends of the membrane. Install the membrane into the housing. The end with the 2 black O-rings goes in first. Make sure the membrane is pressed firmly into the housing. Install the cap and tubing. Quick connect fittings. Remove the tubing, first pull out the blue clip. Then compress the fitting and pull out the tube. To install, insert the tubing and then install the locking clip. Cold water supply valve. Shut off the cold water supply valve to the sink. Open the cold water faucet to relieve any remaining pressure in the system. Old style valve. Put about 3 turns of Teflon tape onto the shutoff valve. Install the shutoff valve into the cold water adapter. Loosen the cold water flex line at the faucet and install the adapter. Reinstall the cold water flex line onto the adapter and tighten. Remove the nut from the stop valve and slip it over the red tubing. Then insert the red tubing onto the valve and tighten the nut. John Guest angle stop valve. Remove the cold water flex line and install the valve. Reinstall the cold water flex line onto the valve and tighten. Insert the red tubing into the adapter. Dispensing faucet. Use an existing hole or drill a new half-inch hole in the desired location. Remove the protective wrap from the chrome plate and install the chrome plate and washer onto the faucet. Install the faucet into the hole. The following steps will take place under the sink, but they are shown on the countertop for clarity. Under the sink, install the back plate, the lock washer, and the nut, and tighten. Place the nut over the blue tubing, place the collar over the tubing, and push the insert into the tubing. Install the blue tubing onto the faucet and tighten the nut. Tank shutoff valve. Put about 6 turns of Teflon tape onto the tank fitting. Install the shutoff valve and tighten by hand. Insert the yellow tubing into the tank shutoff valve. Drain saddle. The drain saddle may be installed on the horizontal cross pipe or on the vertical drain pipe. Drill a 1/4 inch hole in the desired location. Install the sticky foam pad around the hole. Align the drain saddle with the hole using a drill bit or narrow screwdriver. Install the back plate. Install the nuts and tighten with a screwdriver. Remove the tool used for aligning the saddle. Slip the black nut over the black tubing and insert the tubing into the drain saddle and tighten the nut. Tubing hookup. Insert the blue tubing into the pH balance filter port and install the locking clip. Insert the yellow tubing into the post-carbon filter port and install the locking clip. Insert the black tubing into the auto flush valve and install the locking clip. Insert the red tubing into the sediment filter and install the locking clip. System startup. Turn off the tank valve so the handle is perpendicular to the hose. Turn on the reverse osmosis faucet. In systems with manual flush valves, open the flush valve. Turn on the cold water supply. Turn on the reverse osmosis supply valve and check the system for leaks. After 5 minutes, water should start to dribble from the faucet. Wait 10 more minutes and then turn on the tank valve. Turn off the manual flush valve if installed. Shut off the reverse osmosis faucet and allow the system to fill for 2 hours. After 2 hours, open the reverse osmosis faucet until the tank is completely drained. Close the faucet and allow the system to fill. After the tank refills, the system is ready to use. Ice Maker Kit. Wrap the threads of the T-fitting with about 6 wraps of Teflon tape. Install the shut-off valve onto the T-fitting and tighten by hand. Remove the blue tubing from the pH balance filter. Cut a short piece of white tubing and install it into the pH filter fitting. Install the newly assembled valve onto the short hose. Insert the blue tubing into the T-fitting. Insert the white ice maker tubing into the shut-off valve. At the back of the fridge, install the coupling onto the white tubing. Next, insert the ice maker tubing into the other end of the coupling. Turn on the ice maker valve to complete the installation. Changing filters. Turn off the cold water supply valve. Turn on the faucet and drain the tank. And turn off the tank valve. Using the supplied wrench, loosen and remove the filter housing. Be prepared for some water spillage. Remove the old filter cartridge and discard. You may want to clean the filter housing with soap and water and rinse thoroughly. Some Vaseline may be used to lubricate the O-ring. Install the new filter into the housing. Reinstall the housing and tighten with a wrench. Repeat this process for the other two pre-filters. For either the post-carbon filter or the pH balance filter, first remove the tubing, then unscrew the fittings and install them onto the new filter. You may need to add a few wraps of Teflon tape to the threads. Install the new filter into the holder clips and reinstall the tubing. For the RO membrane, remove the tubing from the cap. Lift the housing from the U-clips and remove the cap. You may need pliers to remove the old membrane. Install the new membrane into the filter housing. The two black O-rings go in first. They may be lubricated with Vaseline. Make sure you press the RO membrane in firmly. Reinstall the cap and reinstall the tubing. Turn on the cold water supply and open the tank valve. Allow the tank to fill for 2 to 3 hours and then drain the first tank before using the system.
The water line that comes in is from here, and it's flowing in this direction. So we teed off right here to get the water through the filter system, and we still have the option of bypassing the whole system so that we can do maintenance on this. We can shut the handles off and the water can continue to the house while we do maintenance on this, so we don't have to shut everything down. So the water comes across this direction and up, and it goes through this pre-sediment filter. It's a spin down filter. Then we go through the three-stage filter, which is the fine sediment is the first part, and the second part is the carbon filter, which takes out the chlorine and the tastes and the weird things that are in the water that make it taste funny. And then on ours, on this last one, we have an iron and manganese filter. We have well water, so we're trying to filter out those heavy metals. And then after that, it goes through the biofilter, which is just a UV light which kills any bacteria that can get through the system, and then it ties right back in up at the top with another valve. And to do maintenance on it, it's simple, just turning handles, and then we can just screw these off, put in new filters, and the filter on this is super simple to clean out. So inside these filter containers are the filters, and they are still sealed with plastic, so we have to open these. So the first filter in the line is a sediment filter. It picks up the particles and sand, rust, and scale. The second filter in the series is for picking up chlorine and things like that, the things that make the water taste funny. And the last one is for the heavy metals of iron and manganese. We just need to install those on the bracket, which I already have installed on the wall. And it's just as simple as taking the piece and screwing it straight in and making sure that it gets tight. There's a wrench for it. The filters go in very easily and smoothly. It doesn't take a lot of effort to turn the filter with a wrench, but everything here is cast iron. It's very heavy duty. The easiest thing I found to do is just to push this up and put my finger in the center of the bottom and just spin it on my finger to get it to go straight in. Just give it about a quarter of a turn, and that's it. It's that simple. The next thing we need to do is prep all our fittings. Since I have 3/4 inch line, and this has a 1 inch inlet, we have to reduce down to 3/4. So we have to use Teflon tape on everything. Always lay it on there in the direction that it tightens. I usually do about 3 times around. The reason I do it in the direction it tightens is if you do it in the other direction, when you tighten, it will actually just spin back out of the threads. So this keeps it, as you're tightening the thread, the fitting in, it stays on the threads. When we do change these filters out, before we unscrew this, there's a pressure relief button here and here and here, and that will release the pressure that's inside of this closed loop system. There's just a small closed loop here that has pressure still on it, and we just release it with those buttons, and then this just comes off.
We're going to walk you through the installation of your new reverse osmosis system. Installing fresh, clean drinking water in your home is easy. For setup, we've included a faucet, all the filters you need, and a tank. If you have any questions about installation or your system, just let us know and we'll be glad to help. You'll find a link to the manual in the description below. First, clear your installation space and make sure you have the room you need for all system components. The system uses quick connect tubing. First, we're going to show you how to connect, lock, remove, and cut these tubes. To connect tubing, push the tube into the fitting straight and level with the collet. The collet is this small moving piece at the end of the fitting. The tubing will go 5/8 of an inch into the collet before the lock is activated. Pull on the tube to make sure the lock has activated. Once the tubing is locked, use a locking clip to secure the connection by sliding the open end of the clip between the collet and fitting. To remove a tube, first remove the locking clip. Just pull the clip away from the connection. Then, hold the collet down while pulling out on the tube. Some system fittings have color-coded plugs you will need to remove before you connect tubing. you remove them the same way. Before cutting any tubing, make sure you know the final length you need. Cuts should be made with a razor blade against a flat surface. Your cut must be straight or your tubing may leak and will need to be cut again. Find your cold water supply and turn it off completely. If you have a single handle faucet, turn off your hot water valve. Release any pressure by opening the cold water flow on your sink. The feed adapter can be used for 3/8 or 1/2 inch plumbing sizes. For 3/8 inch connections, attach the adapter nut like so. For 1/2 inch connections, attach the adapter nut on the opposite side. You can secure the adapter valve either directly to the cold water valve or further up the line. Keep the feed adapter in the closed position until installation is finished. Secure the feed adapter with your adjustable wrench. Use the proper drill bit and drilling method for the material you're drilling. Porcelain or granite may need special drill bits. First, find a good location for your RO faucet. Any flat surface where drilling a hole will not damage pipes or wiring will work. Use your power drill and 1/2 inch drill bit to make a hole for your RO faucet. You can also use an existing hole of the appropriate size. Put the small rubber washer, the base plate, then the large rubber washer through the stem to the base of the faucet. Then put the faucet stem through the hole. Make sure your faucet sits in the middle of the hole. Under the counter, put the plastic washer, lock washer, then hex nut onto the stem. Make sure they are secured all the way to the top. Take your 1/4 inch blue tubing and push the faucet adapter onto the tube. Tighten the faucet adapter onto the faucet stem. The drain saddle can fit onto any 1.5 inch straight length of pipe before your P-trap. If you have a garbage disposal, install the saddle before it. Mark where your saddle will go with a pencil and use your 1/4 inch drill bit to drill a hole at your mark. Be careful to only drill through one side of the pipe. Take the connection half of the drain clamp and attach the foam gasket aligned with the hole on the inside of the clamp. Insert nuts into the other half of the drain clamp. Put both halves together on the pipe aligned with the hole you drilled. Secure the clamp to the pipe with the bolts. Take the top part of the system and tighten the membrane housing cap by hand, or with your smaller housing wrench. Stand the filter housings in the correct order. Look to make sure that the O-rings are in the place on each housing. Attach the bottom filters to the top of the system by hand. Then tighten the housing with your large filter housing wrench. Screw a male elbow into the right side of the system. Twist until the elbow is tight and facing downwards. Push the white tubing into the elbow. Next, screw a male elbow into the left side of the system. Twist until the elbow is tight and faces upward at an 11 o'clock angle. Push the red tubing into the elbow. Place your system in its permanent location. Position the leak stop valve beside the system on the cabinet floor. Use the screws to secure it in place. Connect the red tubing to the feed water valve. Connect the other end to the in part of the leak stop valve. Connect the white tube from the sediment filter to the out part of the leak stop valve. Unwrap a pad, place it inside the stop valve, then close the valve. Wrap the stem on the tank with 8 to 10 layers of Teflon tape. Then screw the tank valve onto the stem. Place the tank in the desired location. It can sit upright or on its side. Connect the yellow tubing to the PAC filter on the system. Then connect the yellow tubing to the tank valve. Do not look directly at the UV bulb when it's powered on. When handling the UV bulb, make sure to only touch the white ceramic portion on the bulb. Unscrew the cap from the UV housing. Put the O-ring about 3/4 of an inch from the opening of the tube. Rest the tube against the cap, then screw the cap onto the end of the housing. Connect the bulb to the 4-pin connector. Then, insert the bulb through the cap into the quartz tube. Secure the cover over the metal cap. Connect the black tubing to the flow restrictor. Then connect the black tubing to the drain saddle. Connect the blue tubing from the RO faucet to the PAC filter. You should have completed the other connections earlier in the video. Make sure all connections are complete and secure before moving on. Use red tubing to connect the feed water adapter to the in part of the leak stop valve. Use white tubing to connect the out part of the leak stop valve to the sediment filter. Connect the red tubing from the automatic shut-off valve to the ACB filter. Use yellow tubing to connect the PAC filter to the tank valve. Make sure all connections are secured with a locking clip. Plug the UV sterilizer into an appropriate power outlet. Make sure the tank valve is closed. Then open the cold water valve and feed adapter valve. Turn on the RO faucet and wait up to 10 minutes for water to start dripping. Let the water flow for 5 minutes. Then turn the faucet off. Wait 10 minutes and check the system for leaks. If you find a leak, turn the feed water adapter valve off and open the RO faucet to release pressure. Make sure the tubing at the leaking connection point is fully secured and cut correctly. Pressurize the system once you have identified the problem. Once you're sure there are no immediate leaks, turn the tank valve to the open position and allow the tank to fill completely. This will take between 2 and 3 hours. The amount of time depends on the pressure and quality of your incoming water. The flow of water will stop once the tank is filled. When the tank is full, open your RO faucet and drain the stored water. Once the water flow has slowed to a trickle, close the faucet and allow the tank to fill again. You should empty 2 more tanks of water to flush your system and prime your filters. This will take 4 to 6 hours. Occasionally check for leaks as you fill and empty the system. Now, let the system fill one final time and sit overnight before you flush again. Once the next tank is filled, your water is ready for drinking. Check for leaks occasionally during the first week of use. Now your RO system is ready to go and you're ready to enjoy safe, clean drinking water made in your own home. For more videos, replacement filters, regular deals, and system upgrades, visit us at expresswater.com.
This video will cover the assembly and installation of the Naples Naturals Reverse Osmosis Water Purification System. Your Naples Naturals Reverse Osmosis Water Purification System should have arrived with everything you see here. Notice the filter housing assembly, that large three-pronged structure in the back, is already assembled. If your filter housing assembly arrived pre-assembled, as seen here, please skip ahead to 4 minutes and 30 seconds. If not, we will start by covering how to assemble this structure. These are all the components that go into the filter housing assembly. You will also need the filter housing wrench and some Teflon tape, which can be purchased for just a few dollars at your local hardware store. To start, place the sediment filter, the pre-carbon GAC filter, and the pre-carbon carbon block filter into their respective containers. With the Naples Naturals logo visible on the housing assembly, screw in the sediment filter container on the right, the pre-carbon GAC filter container in the middle, and the pre-carbon carbon block filter container on the left, tightening each with the housing wrench. Next, insert the RO element into the RO element container so that the large black rubber seal goes in last. Then screw on the cap. Next, we're going to screw in the elbows. But before we screw in any elbow, always make sure to wrap the threads in 12 layers of Teflon tape to prevent leaks. Afterward, you can either break or cut the Teflon tape off, making sure to press down the end of the tape so it doesn't stick out. Notice that of the L-shaped elbows, there are 2 different kinds. 3 have smaller threads, like the one shown on the left, and 1 has larger threads, like the one shown on the right. Having already wrapped each elbow in Teflon tape, screw the large threaded elbow into the narrow side of the inline activated carbon filter. Then screw the T-connector elbow into the wide side. Screw in the remaining 3 small threaded elbows into the 3 holes of the RO element container. Now, attach the 2 filters with the filter clips, making sure the wide side of the inline activated carbon filter is adjacent to the cap of the RO element container. It's now time to set up the automatic shutoff valve, the larger white hunk of plastic, and the flow restrictor valve, the smaller cylindrical hunk of plastic. Notice that you have 5 different lengths of tubing. Notice also that the top of the automatic shutoff valve has the word "in" on one side and "out" on the other, and on the bottom there are 4 screws. Take the shortest piece of tubing and insert it on the bottom of the side that says "in". Take the longest piece of tubing and insert it on the top of the side that says "in". Into the side that says "out", insert any 2 of the remaining pieces of tubing. Now notice the flow restrictor valve has an arrow going from left to right. Insert the last piece of tubing into the left side so that it feeds into the arrow. Now we have to connect the valves to the filters. With the inline activated charcoal filter on top and the screw cap to the RO element container on the left, insert the tubing from the flow restrictor valve into the bottom right elbow of the RO element container. Into the top right elbow of the RO element container, insert the short tubing from the automatic shutoff valve, leaving the long tubing unattached. Insert the tubing from the bottom of the side that says "out" into the elbow on the cap of the RO element container. Insert the tubing from the top of the side that says "out" into the part of the T-connector elbow that comes out at a 90-degree angle. To finish the housing assembly, clip the RO element container into the top of the filter housing, so that when the Naples Naturals logo is visible in front, the RO element container screw cap is on the right. Whether your filter housing assembly came pre-assembled or not, you will need to screw in the side elbows. Screw an elbow into the hole on the side closest to the pre-carbon carbon block filter. Remember to wrap the threads of each elbow in Teflon tape before screwing them in, to prevent leaking, as discussed earlier in this video. Now take the long tubing from the automatic shutoff valve and insert it into this elbow. Screw an elbow into the other side of the filter housing assembly in the same way, but leave this one without tubing for now. Assembling the water storage tank is easy. First, wrap the threads in 12 layers of Teflon tape. Next, screw on the ball valve, making sure not to over-tighten. Next, we have to tap the cold water line, which will provide your RO system with water. Having turned the water supply off, loosen the water line by wrench, and then completely disconnect the line. Insert the feed adapter into the water line. Your feed adapter may look like the one on the left or the one on the right. In the video, we are using the one on the right. Finish by reconnecting the water line, tightening by wrench. The impurities your RO system filters out have to go somewhere, so the Naples Natural system will send them down the drain. For this, we need to tap into the drain line. Punch out the center hole from the foam pad, then remove the paper backing and adhere it to the back of the top bracket of the drain saddle valve so that the holes line up. Place the top bracket on your drain pipe and mark where the hole is with a drill bit or a marker. Remove the top bracket and drill a hole into the pipe. If your drain pipe has a P-trap, as shown in this picture, make sure to drill above the P-trap, as the trap itself is filled with water. Clamp the front and the back brackets of the drain saddle valve around the drain pipe by screwing them together. Make sure the hole on the top bracket lines up with the hole you just drilled. The parts shown here will all be necessary to assemble your faucet. After having drilled a hole in your counter, place the metal cover plate over the faucet hole. Then, insert the threaded shaft of the faucet through the hole in the metal cover plate and the counter so that it protrudes beneath the counter. From beneath, slide the white plastic washer up the threaded shaft of the faucet. Next, slide up the black rubber washer, the metal washer, and the star washer. Finally, thread the narrow nut all the way up the shaft and tighten by wrench. Unlike the narrow nut on the left, the wide nut has one small opening and one large opening. Slide the wide nut onto the blue tubing, narrow opening first. Slide the plastic ferrule 1/4 inch down the blue tubing, and then press the tubing insert into the end of the blue tubing, locking the ferrule in place. Now place the blue tubing tip to tip with the threaded shaft under the counter. Thread the wide nut onto the shaft of the faucet and tighten by wrench. The final step in the installation will be to connect all the pieces with tubing. Take the orange tubing and cut it in half. Use the straight valve to reconnect the two halves. Insert either end of the orange tubing into the feed adapter in the cold water line. Insert the other end into the side elbow of the filter housing assembly nearest the sediment filter. Insert one end of the yellow tubing into the T-connector elbow on the inline activated carbon filter, and the other end into the water tank. You will have to unscrew the white nut from the ball valve, insert the tubing, and then screw the nut back in to tighten the connection. Insert one end of the black tubing into the flow restrictor valve, and the other end into the drain saddle valve. Finally, insert the blue tubing from the faucet into the narrow end of the inline activated carbon filter. Your Naples Naturals reverse osmosis water purification system has now been assembled and installed. Before drinking from it, flush the system out as described in the user manual. This should take a few hours. Your sediment filter, pre-carbon GAC filter, and pre-carbon carbon block filter will last 6 months before needing to be replaced. The RO element and inline activated carbon filter will last a year. To order replacement filters, please visit naplesnaturals.com.
If you're interested in buying one of this product, links to all the products mentioned in this video are in the description down below. If you like and found this video helpful, don't forget to give a like, comment, and to subscribe. As always, thank you for watching.